Creatine is one of the most researched supplements in the world, but it's also one of the most feared. Kidney damage, hair loss, steroids. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Miller, and today we're putting every claim under the microscope, and the answers might not be what you expect. Let's begin with the concern I hear the most often. Does creatine damage your kidneys? To understand where this concern comes from, we need to separate two very similar sounding words, creatine and creatinine. Creatine is a substance your body produces naturally and stores primarily in your muscles. Some creatine spontaneously breaks down into creatinine, which is then filtered out of your blood by your kidneys. Healthcare providers commonly measure serum creatinine as part of a blood test to estimate your kidney function. So if serum creatinine is elevated, it can sometimes indicate that the kidneys are not filtering properly. But there's an important catch. So taking supplemental creatine increases the amount of creatine available in the body. This can modestly increase your serum creatinine because creatinine is a normal breakdown product of creatine, not necessarily because the kidneys have been damaged. In other words, creatine may change the marker used to estimate kidney function without actually reducing your kidney function. A 2025 systematic review and meta-analysis found that creatine supplementation was associated with a modest increase in serum creatinine, but it did not produce a significant decline in glomerular filtration rate, or GFR, which is a more direct reflection of your kidney's filtering ability. The researchers concluded that the creatinine increase was likely related to the creatine metabolism rather than kidney injury. This is also why it's important to tell your healthcare provider if you use creatine before having blood work done. It gives them the context they need to interpret your creatinine and estimated GFR appropriately. So does creatine damage the kidneys? Current controlled research does not show that standard dose creatine causes kidney damage, but that conclusion should not automatically be applied to somebody who already has a kidney disease or impaired kidney function. Does creatine cause hair loss? The hair loss concern can largely be traced back to one small study published in 2009. In that study, 20 male rugby players were assigned to receive either creatine or a placebo. The creatine group had an increase in dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, during the study. DHT is involved in androgenic hair loss in people whose hair follicles are genetically susceptible to it. From there, the idea that creatine causes hair loss spread across the internet. But there were several limitations. The study was small, only about 20 people. It measured DHT, not actual hair loss. The increase remained within the normal clinical range, and the finding was not consistently reproducible by later studies. A major 2021 review concluded that the existing evidence did not support the claim that creatine increases testosterone, free testosterone, or DHT, and there was no association that it showed that it was linked to increased hair loss. Then, in 2025, researchers conducted their first randomized control trial designed to assess hair health directly. Participants took either 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day or a placebo for 12 weeks. Researchers examined DHT levels as well as hair density, follicular unit count, and cumulative hair thickness. They found no significant difference between the groups in the DHT or any of the measured hair growth outcomes. This was a relatively small study and it was short term, so it cannot rule out every possible effect in every population, but its findings don't support the claim that creatine causes hair loss. Based on the evidence we currently have, hair loss is not an established side effect of creatine. Does creatine damage the liver? Another common claim is that creatine is hard on your liver. Your liver is involved in your body's natural production of creatine along with the kidneys and pancreas, but that does not mean that supplemental creatine is automatically damaging to the liver. Controlled research has not established that standard doses of creatine monohydrate cause liver damage in healthy people. There are isolated case reports involving liver abnormalities in people who were taking creatine, but case reports of singular individuals cannot prove that creatine was responsible, especially when multiple supplements, medications, or unusually high doses of creatine were also involved. And the key is that a case report is not quality evidence compared to a controlled study. That distinction is important. So somebody who developed a problem while using creatine is not the same as creatine causing the problem in the first place. However, anyone with existing liver disease, abnormal liver enzymes, or a history of supplemental related liver injury should definitely speak with their healthcare provider before using it. Now, product quality matters here as well. Supplements are not regulated in the exact same way that prescription medications are. So contamination, inaccurate labeling, and undisclosed ingredients can create risks that are not caused by creatine itself. So look for a simple creatine monohydrate product with credible third-party testing. Is creatine a steroid? No, creatine is not an anabolic steroid. Anabolic steroids are synthetic substances related to testosterone. They act through androgen receptors and could substantially alter your hormone signaling. Creatine is a completely different type of compound. It supports the phosphocreatine energy system, helping your cells regenerate ATP during short periods of high energy demand. Creatine does not become testosterone in the body, and it does not have the chemical structure or hormonal action of an anabolic steroid. Your body also produces creatine naturally, and you obtain small amounts from foods like meat and fish. Creatine can also support improvements in strength and training capacity, but that does not make it a steroid. Are there any real creatine side effects? Like any supplement, creatine may cause a few mild side effects in some people. The most common is a small increase in body weight, especially when somebody first begins taking it. Creatine draws water into muscle cells, so this is generally related to water rather than an increase in body fat. Some people experience bloating, nausea, stomach discomfort, or diarrhea, particularly when they take large amounts at once. These effects are more likely during a high dose loading phase and may improve with a smaller daily dose. You do not need to load creatine for it to work. A standard daily amount will simply saturate the muscles more gradually. Research also does not support the common belief that creatine routinely causes dehydration or muscle cramping. Of course, normal hydration remains important, especially during exercise or hot weather. When is individualized guidance especially important? Now, it's always a good idea to discuss any new supplements with your healthcare provider, but individual guidance is particularly important for people who have kidney disease, reduced kidney function, or unexplained abnormal kidney markers, have liver disease or persistently elevated liver enzymes, are pregnant, trying to conceive, or breastfeeding, take medications that can affect kidney or liver function, have a complex medical condition, or use multiple medications and supplements at once, or considering creatine for a child or adolescent. Creatine has been studied in some adolescent athletes and clinical populations, but the data is not as extensive as it is for healthy adults. For anyone under 18, supplementation should be discussed with a qualified healthcare professional and parent or guardian rather than treated as a casual gym supplement. And remember, extremely high doses, poorly labeled products, and multi-ingredient workout formulas should not be assumed to have the same safety profile as a standard dose of pure creatine monohydrate. So is creatine safe? For most healthy adults, creatine monohydrate appears safe at standard doses. Research does not show that it damages healthy kidneys, causes liver damage, acts like a steroid, or causes hair loss. It may modestly increase your serum creatinine, which can complicate the interpretation of kidney blood work without representing actual kidney injury. The most common effects are much less dramatic, so temporary water-related weight gain, and in some people, digestive discomfort, especially in those large doses. But generally safe is not the same as appropriate for everyone, so your medical history, medications, age, product quality, and dose still matter. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe for the rest of this evidence-based creatine series. And watch the next episode where we'll talk about another common question: does creatine cause weight gain? And what is actually happening when the number on the scale goes up? I'll see you in the next episode.